here.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm just going to do a quick overview here. We have Andy Preetz, we have John Helmrich, we have Dave Eiley. Dave,
Yep,
you're there. Great. Chris Lozano. Chris? I'm still not able to hear you, Chris, if you're on the call. I see Becky
Yep.
Israels. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Lene.
Hi, I see Bill Rowe.
Yep.
Bill is here from the Planning Commission. Anyone else from the Planning Commission?
Is Ed Welk here?
Do I hear Ed? Don't see Ed at this time. I do see someone with the iPad, but I don't know who that is.
Mary Townsend.
Becky has an
Mary?
iPad.
Yeah, Mary
Okay,
Townsend.
Becky, yep. Sorry, Mary, are you going to be speaking during public comment?
I am not. I'm just listening in.
Okay, thank you, Mary Townsend. I appreciate you putting your name up.
I'm gonna go.
So Andy, we have everybody except for Mr. Welk so far. And I do see Chris, the name Chris here on the roster, but Chris, I'm still not able to hear you.
Could he possibly call in so we can get
Yeah,
his
Chris,
voice vote?
yeah. Hey, Griffin, I know you're over there. Maybe if you're able to call Chris Lozano, that would be helpful. All right. I cannot call because I'm also using my phone for the sound. But Andy, if you want to go ahead and get started, I think everybody should be seeing the screen that shows the PowerPoint. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Monday, April 27th, 2020. It's currently 7:03 p.m. I'd like to take a roll call. Helmrich,
Here.
Eiley,
Here.
Israels,
Here.
Lozano, we're not sure, right?
Right.
Rowe,
Here.
Preetz here, and Welk is absent. Next on the agenda, I would like to ask, has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? And is there any questions or comments or additions to the agenda tonight?
No.
Nope.
I would move that we accept the agenda as written.
And who is that, please?
Bill Rowe.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll support Helmrich.
Second by John Helmrich. Any discussion on the motion?
Would you like to add to that motion the language at the bottom of the slide related to conducting the meeting via video conference?
Okay.
I'm fine with that. Does that need to be read or?
Just to amend your motion to include that.
Okay, I would amend my my motion to include the language at the bottom of the screen.
And I'll still support that.
Any further questions or comments on the agenda?
No.
We'll do a roll call vote. Helmrich,
Yes.
Eiley,
Yes.
Israels,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Preetz, yes.
And then Andy, do you want to try Chris Lozano? Chris, can you hear us? Can't hear. Okay. I know he's trying to get in, so Andy, I'll let you know as soon as he does.
Okay, thank you.
Motion approved.
Yeah, motion carries unanimously. Next agenda item is the approval of the minutes from the February 24th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
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 Any questions on page 1? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4.
I just saw one little thing on page 4, number 7. It reads towards the end of the sentence, it says adjacent wells shall described and addressed. It should be shall be described and addressed.
Okay, thank you. Did you get that, Becky?
Yes, yes, Dave Eiley, yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on page 4? Page 5. Page 6.
I only saw the one item. I think it might my screen is, it might be a little smudgy on the screen, if that makes sense. But I think under Terry Shull, I think it spells Shuil.
You're right. Good catch.
And it should be ULL.
What is it? SHULL or IL?
LL.
LL.
Okay, thank you.
And I had one thing on the comment by Roy McElwain. The second sentence, he questioned transparency. Should that be questioned? ED on the end.
Yes.
Any other comments on page 6? Page 7?
I have 2 on page 7.
Okay.
And Dave, you're beating me to this. That's good. Becky, these were exemplary minutes. It was a really long meeting there. But on page 7, Roy McElwain in the top bullet points, there's an extra L in his name.
Okay.
And then next paragraph under board discussion, second line from the bottom, wants to sand moved and wiling. There's an L missing in willing.
Okay. I put it in McElwain. I put that extra L in.
Yeah.
Good cover, Becky.
Yeah, we can have a little fun. Okay.
Anything else on page 7? Page 8.
Yes, in point 9, Township Staff and Board Report, the last item, the bullet, next official Township Board meeting is Wednesday, April 8, 2020. And that will be reported on tonight.
Well, these
These
are
are
minutes from, minutes from February, so that the next meeting is March.
Oh, okay, you're right. No, I got my time wrong. Never mind.
That's okay, John.
Thank you. Just checking.
Anything else on page 8?
Right, because we didn't meet in March, right?
Right.
Right. Page 9. I entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I would move that we accept the minutes as amended.
That's
Second.
Bill Rowe. And second by Dave Eiley.
Yes.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call, Helmrich,
Yes.
Miley,
Yes.
Israel.
Yes.
Is Chris on board yet?
Yes, he is.
Lozano,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Preetz, yes. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, at this, the next agenda item is public comments. Lene has created a list of the people who, as they were signing in, had said that they had an interest in making a public comment. She will unmute you and invite you to make your public comments. We request that you respect the 3-minute time limit for individual comments and the 5-minute time limit for an individual speaking on behalf of a group. This is not a question and answer session. It is an opportunity to voice your thoughts with the Planning Commission. Hey, Lene.
Sure. Hello. So far, I have Lori Goshorn, Roy McElwain as wanting to speak, and then I do have some others who've joined the meeting. Spencer Brewer, were you wanting to speak, Spencer? Spencer?
No.
Okay, thank you. And then I do see several people, Matt, from the applicant side. I'm assuming you, if you are speaking, you would be waiting until that agenda item, correct?
That's correct. Just answer.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, great. All right, Lori.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are, Lori. Hi.
Okay, hi. Lori Gosshorn, 3512 64th Street, Saugatuck Township, and I represent the Coastal Alliance this evening. The Alliance has concerns with regard to the applicant's statement. On page 5 of the application, page 1 of their typed application following page 4 of the handwritten application, it states, quote, noteworthy. In 2018, a memo issued by the Attorney General concluded that the creation of a water body for recreational purposes shall not be considered mining as it relates to permitting concerns, end quote. There are several things noteworthy about the applicant's statement. Number one, the 2018 memo from the AG does not exist, or at least was not issued nor published as a formal legal opinion of Michigan's Attorney General. Number two, the applicant does not include the purported AG's direct language for the cited memo. Number three, the applicant does not include the purported memo for the township's reference. We would be interested in reviewing the AG's memo if the applicant can produce a copy. If the applicant or the applicant's attorney cannot produce the AG's memo and the very specific legal language of the memo, then the application should be considered misleading and untrue. As such, the application should be dismissed and the permit denied. Before approving the applicant's permit, the township should require a sand dune mining review by Eagle. Eagle was not aware of the sand mine. Any decisions by the township without first having the state conduct a formal sand mine review is placing the cart before the horse. Further, the proposed water ski pond is not harmonious with the surrounding area. The surrounding area includes a conservation easement managed as a natural area. The area is zoned as a residential area. Neither a sand mine operation nor a water ski pond is harmonious with a quiet neighborhood set between two legally binding natural areas, the McEnroe Conservation Easement and Talmadge Woods. While the proposed water body is relatively near the Kalamazoo River, the river at that point is a no-wake zone. The no-wake zone is in part to keep noise to a minimum for homeowners along the Riverside Drive. The proposed water ski pond would create noise levels and exhaust fumes that are not harmonious with the quiet Riverside neighborhood nor the woodland habitat. If the Planning Commission moves forward and permits this sand mine operation and creation of a water body, then the township should require the pond be for non-motorized watercraft only. So to recap, first, we suggest the permit be denied unless the applicant produces the AG memo they reference in their application. Second, we suggest two conditions to the permit. One, require an Eagle sand dune mining review. And two, require the pond allow only non-motorized watercraft to be harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Renee? Renee?
Yes, Andy.
Lori?
Yes, Andy. Hi, I'm here.
Okay,
Thank you. I did mute Lori, so thank you, Lori. Roy, were you interested in speaking during public comment?
Yes. You hear me?
yes, we
Thank
can
you.
hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I was not planning on reading this, but there was a goof when I sent in this letter. It's actually a letter from 5 residents. And Terry Scholl was inadvertently left off the letter, although he asked me to include his name. That's Terry Scholl, 6541 Blue Star Highway. So there's 5 residents, including Scott Waringa, who is on Dugout Road and is extremely close to the excavation that's planned. The letter is as follows. If approved, township residents will endure 3 or more years of 5 days a week extracting noise, dust, and truck traffic entering Blue Star Highway, just so Mr. Van Horn can water ski. This excavation is not in character with the surrounding area. The area is wooded and rural in nature. How does a 10-acre water skiing lake fit in? The question is that water skiing is available at other locations. This is a clear want, not a need. As neighbors of the Van Horn property, we see no need to grant an SAU. There is no reason that his property is not usable or marketable without a 10-acre pond. A solution to the existing huge pond dune is simple. The spoils from this 5-acre pond should be spread over the 5+ acres already clear cut on the south side of the pond and not removed for the financial benefit of the owner. Whether or not the owner, I'm adding my own comment here, whether or not the owner receives remuneration for the sand, he still is benefiting financially because he doesn't have to pay to have it removed. This is a win for Mr. Van Horn if we stay with the 5 acres and spread the soil. He gets a 5-acre lake and the community does not have to endure 3 years of excavating activity. The SAU is not justified and should be denied. And that was Roy, the McElwains, Marcia Sikora at 3480 Riverside Drive, John and Mark Williams at 3464 Riverside Drive, Scott Waringa at 6618 Dugout, and Terry Scholl, as I mentioned already, on Blue Star Highway. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
I see Scott joined. Scott? Scott, were you intending to speak during public comment? You're muted. We can't hear you in case you were.
This Scott or the other Scott? Looks like there's two.
There's another Scott. Yeah, Scott, you with the headphones, I see you. And you did mention you did not want to speak. So
Correct.
there is another Scott. Okay. No? Okay. Spencer Brewer, I'm just going to give you one more chance. Carl Gabriz.
No, thanks.
Mary Townsend?
No.
No, okay. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I believe that's all. And sorry, Chad, anyone from your team wanting to speak during public comment other than during the agenda item?
I don't think so, Lene, unless the planning commissioners have questions for us, I think, at this point.
Okay, at this time, I'd
Okay.
like to close public comments and move on to old business, which is consideration for a special approval use application for Chad Van Horn for a mineral extraction sand mine in the R1 district, with the parcel numbers as listed on the agenda. Mr. Van Horn, if you'd like to speak at this time, or any of your representatives, here's your chance to do so. Chad, you're muted. There you go.
I just unmuted, sorry. Oh,
Now he's muted again.
Andy, if I switch to screen share, will I see more than just you and Lori?
What you can do is switch to the grid view, and you should be able to see people who are speaking.
Okay, I don't see that. Okay.
Okay, Chad, go ahead.
Yeah, Andy, could you hear me now?
Yes.
So thank you. I don't have much to say. Thank you for the special accommodations to hold the meeting as scheduled. I appreciate that and the efforts. I did have a chance to review the draft resolution or proposed resolution that I think Lene prepared, or maybe Lene and Nick or whoever, and I think it's reasonable, and I just would I hope that the board will find it acceptable as well.
Okay, thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Lene,
yes, yes.
at this point, would you like to go through some of the requirements of the SAU?
Sure. So let me just go through our site plan or our special land use review. We did take up this item in February. We had a public hearing and collected public comment. This is a 47-acre site, and the special land use we're reviewing it for sand mining and removal of sand from the property. We did go through the special approval use standards, and we can go through those right now. All uses shall be established and maintained in accordance with state statutes and regulations. If any of the regulations of this subsection are less strict than those in the applicable site or state statutes, the state requirement shall prevail. I just want to let you know that we have prepared a resolution. In that resolution, we have included a standard that the site and any operation shall be, the use shall be in accordance with state, local, and federal standards. We did hear from the applicant that Blue Star Highway would be used as the haul route. It's been confirmed by the Allegan County Road Commission. They've also required that Blue Star Highway be used. The proposed resolution addresses that Blue Star Highway would be used as the haul route, and that if the excavation, when and if it exceeds 5 acres, all the required state and federal permits should be furnished to the township. The second standard is that no fixed machinery shall be erected or maintained within 50 feet of the property or the private road. No cut or excavation shall be made closer than 50 feet to the street or private road. And that standard is met. Mining limits are included on the site plan, and these limits are more than 50 feet from the property line. We've also noted that no new private road is included on the site plan, and no new private road is permitted as part of this request. Item number 3, where use is determined by the Planning Commission to be a public hazard, the use shall be enclosed by a security fence, not more than 6 feet in height around the periphery, or a portion thereof to discourage trespassing. This is a large site. The applicant has placed signage not less than every 275 feet on the site around the pond. A gate has been installed at the Blue Star Highway driveway. The applicant has also offered to place 4 signs at the driveway, 2 for trucks and 2 at the Blue Star Trail to notify passersby of truck traffic and trail users. This is also a condition that's been added to the proposed resolution. Item number 4, this relates to new buildings, and no new buildings are proposed. So I'm just going to move on. Item number 5, that the Planning Commission shall establish routes for truck movement to and from the site. The applicant has stated that Blue Star Highway will be used as the haul route. A gravel drive approach has been required by the Allegan County Road Commission for dust control, and that is shown on the site plan. Number 6 is related to that all permitted installations shall be maintained in a neat, orderly condition to prevent injury to property, persons, or the community in general. We do include in the proposed resolution that a bond be furnished, and that bond amount be for $100,000. And that we include in that bond that the Blue Star Trail would be maintained and repaired and kept in good condition. Number 7, that proper measures as determined by the Planning Commission shall be taken to minimize the nuisance of noise and flying dust or rock. That measures include limitations on the practices of stockpiling excavated material. We noted in our review that the required buffering and the landscape buffer that's maintained around the site is proposed as dust control, and the condition is added to the resolution that that buffer be maintained. Number 8 relates to excavation and removal operations, that the gradient in the disturbed earth shall not be steeper than a slope of 3 to 1. A layer of arable topsoil of a quality approved by the zoning administrator shall be spread over the excavated area, except exposed rock surfaces or areas lying below the natural water level, to a minimum depth of 4 inches in accordance with the approved contour plan. The area shall be seeded with perennial grasses and maintained until the area is stabilized and approved by the Planning Commission. We do have a site restoration plan that's been included in the packet and reviewed. That restoration plan indicates that the site would be restored within 36 months from the date of approval. Number 9, the Planning Commission, in granting the approval, may require the posting of a bond or other assurance that the requirements of this section have been met. I did state before that we would be requiring a bond in the amount of $100,000 for site restoration. and maintenance of the Blue Star Trail. That's included in the proposed resolution. And then we have our general special land use standards, it's section 40-693. The first is whether the special land use would be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner harmonious with the character of the surrounding area. We've included the comment that the applicant has provided and has offered operational and site standards to mitigate off-site impacts to ensure the operation will be as harmonious as possible during its operation. They've included hours of operation and days of the week. You did hear public comment today about this standard. That may be something the Planning Commission wishes to discuss. I mean, you can discuss anything in this. Number two, will the special approval use change the essential character of the area? The mining operation is temporary to create a pond for residential enjoyment. Once restored, the site will be similar to other residentially used and zoned properties in the township. Number three, will the special approval use be hazardous or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which might prove detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of persons or property by reason of traffic, noise, vibration, smoke, fumes, or glare? We've included conditions in the proposed resolution to help mitigate off-site impacts. We've also included a requirement that all the activities now and in the future are operated and conform to applicable federal, state, and local laws. That's included in the resolution. And number four, will the special approval use place additional demands on public services and facilities? We see that the applicant's required to use the Blue Star Highway for site access. I'm sorry, I said the Kent County. It should be the Allegan County. The Allegan County Road Commission has provided a letter of support, and their driveway permit is also included in the packet. They've posted and no trespass signs every 275 feet. We're not anticipating that demands on the public services and facilities would be greater than those typical for this proposed use. So I'm happy to pull up the resolution if you'd like, or any site plan or anything that's included in the packet.
Great, thank you, Lene. Is there any discussion by the commissioners?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm just curious, how and why did the determination get made about 3 years, 36 months for the period of extraction? It seems quite long.
So I can speak to that. The applicant proposed a time frame in the application, which I believe was 36 months. In drafting the resolution, we tacked a little bit of time on that just to account for contingencies with being COVID-19 related or otherwise, just the building the possibility of delay, and also building in the fact that not only do they have to remove the sand, they also have to do the reclamation within that time period as well. So that's how the number was arrived upon. Just gives them a little bit of cushion from what they proposed.
What was the original proposal?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was the original proposal from them?
When I believe it was 36 months. Mr. Van Horn might be able to confirm that. I think that was the case.
That is correct. It was initially 36 months. That also, aside from the COVID concerns, that assumed we were talking about something that commenced a couple of months ago, maybe back in March, or I'm sorry, last March. We were thinking maybe this would pass in February or March already. So I think the time cushion is practical and sensible.
So it was always 36 months. It wasn't extended.
Correct. Hold on a second.
It still strikes me as quite long. That's my point.
The proposed draft here is 48 months.
Okay. You said 36, okay. So, all right.
But that includes reclamation in addition to extraction.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to mention in point in the overview document number 3, the reference to the gate on Blue Star. I guess it says will be. Do you have a time frame for installing that gate?
I do, John. It's ordered through Fence Consultants. As I had before I ever came in and had these discussions, I continue to be proactive.
Sure.
I ordered it from Fence Consultants. Unfortunately, that was right about the time that the government mandated shutdown was ordered. So I spoke to them as recently as today, and they're trying to sort through with their legal counsel whether or not they're approved to work under the current revisions or extension of the order.
Right.
But they've assured me that I'm on the top of their list for as soon as they're able to produce that and install it. In the meantime, I have put a locked cable across the entry, and we could certainly continue to lock and unlock that daily as needed or what have you.
Right. No, I noted the locked cable today, and then on 135th Avenue, the cable was down, but there seemed to be some work going on. So.
Yeah, correct.
John, do you have anything else?
Yeah, sorry. Hey, Lene, in let's see, section 4693, I guess it was under item 2 about the essential character of the area. You made reference to this being similar to other approved site plan. Did I hear you right?
Well, I did include that in the essential demands that that additional demands on public services and facilities are not anticipated to be greater than those typical for the proposed use. Up to item 2, will the special approval use change the essential character of the area?
Okay, but yeah, I thought you made reference to other similar sites, and I was just curious what you had in mind. But
well, top grade, I guess, is what I would have in mind as the other similar excavation operation that we have.
so that was just specific to the sand mining. Okay, not the whole plan.
Mm-mm.
All right. No, my other comment, because I found this interesting, it was brought up in public comment, and I'm interested and intrigued by this reference because it was put in Mr. Van Horn's application comments about this 2018 memo issued by the State Attorney General. And if in fact it was not an actual memo or ruling, but perhaps a conversation or discussion, I would like to hear more about that. And if we could request that be presented to the commission so we could review it, so we actually know what was stated and if it was in fact, as I said, a ruling versus an opinion, personal opinion.
So, yeah, John,
yeah.
You mind?
This is Chad Van Horn speaking.
No, I know. I can see him. Hi, Chad.
Yeah. So I would say, the purpose of that comment even was back when we took the position that maybe we didn't even need to be there for the sand mine. At this point, we're fully submitted to your process, and I think that's a moot point at the time. So I guess we've passed that back at the February meeting.
And just to confirm that, we haven't really relied on those representations at all. From the township's perspective, we've taken the position that this is a sand mine, and that's why the applicant is here tonight. From the state's perspective, we've gone ahead and built into the resolution that he has to obtain any state permits that are required. So we haven't, accepted one way or the other whether a state sand mining permit is needed. If it is needed, if the state determines that it's needed, then that's a prerequisite of his approval to move forward. So I essentially agree it's kind of a moot point, what that memo says and whether we have a copy of it. I will also confirm the public commenter's statement that it's not an official opinion of the Attorney General. I looked for it in the official reports. It's not there. But the Attorney General does sometimes send letters taking legal positions on various issues that don't show up in the public domain. So it's not necessarily a misrepresentation in that regard either. Because I believe he stated that it was a memo of the Attorney General, not an opinion of the Attorney General. And there's a bit of a legal distinction there. But in any event, we haven't relied on those representations and what we're presenting to you tonight in the proposed resolution.
But the resolution is explicitly clear that if necessary, a permit from Eagle will be obtained?
Yes, that's condition 1. Any state permit. So the applicant, I've had a conversation with the applicant's attorney as well. They know for sure that they need a Part 301 permit and that is if they were to exceed 5 acres in excavation, they'll need essentially an inland lakes permit, or sometimes called a pond permit from Eagle. There's still a question whether they need the mining permit, but they know that they have to get sorted out with Eagle and get the permit if Eagle is requiring it.
Thank you.
John, are you all set?
I think so.
Okay. Anybody else on the Planning Commission have any questions or comments? Chris, do you have anything?
Just concerned about the crossing that bike path.
Okay. As part of the resolution, it's in there that Mr. Van Horn will install signs both on the entrance for trucks coming in and going out, and also signs on each side of the driveway on the bike path warning pedestrians or bike riders that that's a truck crossing.
Yeah, I've seen that. I understand that. I think that'll help. But under normal circumstances, possibly this year is going to be different, and there's not going to be a lot of traffic on that bike path. But it sure seems like, doing the math on the amount of yards of sand that you see piled up there, divide that by the trucks, and it seems like there's going to be a nonstop parade of semis leaving that place for years to get that kind of sand out of there. And it just seems like that's a huge liability because crossing that bike path.
I could speak further if I'm on.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, valid concern, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's a concern that I share. As such, I've again proactively taken a further step than what I even saw in the resolution. And actually, aside from considering the signs that were suggested suggested, I guess, I also have a stop sign in mind that would go on the inside of the path. And also noteworthy, for whatever reason, many of these folks opt to take the scenic route of the bike path of 100 or from 66 to 135th. It amazes me the number of people that walk down the center of the road as opposed to continuing to stay on the Blue Star Trail and go.
So what you're saying, Chad, is you would add a stop sign for the people riding on the path or walking on the path at your driveway, at both sides of the driveway.
I was suggesting that it would be on my property that trucks would have to stop before they went across the bike path to leave the property. But I would happily put those signs on the trail as well if desired.
I would actually, this is Dave Eiley. I would actually have another step. I understand the traffic concerns, and I know those are real. However, I think to Chris's point, with the material leaving the site and the loaded trucks, that bike path is going to disintegrate, and in no time at all. And I would suggest, in order to address that, is just laying a steel plate over the bike path to keep it as a hard surface, because I think it's just going to it's just going to crumble.
So, Dave, yeah, great point. I think what my thought in that regard was that where the drive goes through, we actually saw cut the existing top out and put, build a true drive base in it, just as you would with any driveway that cuts through. So we've got the sand base compacted with gravel compacted, building it to the standard required, by the township and upon the road commission standards, I guess. And that would just continue all the way through. So essentially, we don't have that concern. I agree it could be very rough. The concern with the steel plate overlay or some of that sort is, of course, now you've got bumps and it could be slippery or whatever.
It would be difficult for bikers.
Yeah, I would actually, I wouldn't have any issue with building up the road base there. Just something that has some integrity to it throughout the life of the project. That's all I was trying to get at.
Yep, agreed.
That makes good sense.
The next question I would have regarding the trucks leaving the site. In a normal summer, Blue Star Highway can become pretty congested. And I think there was a comment in there that the Planning Commission had some, give direction as far as, how the trucks leave the site. And maybe Chad, you've thought this through already. But I'm envisioning it in my head that the trucks leave and then they actually head towards the highway or hang a left out of your property, and then trying to cross Blue Star Highway in a high traffic day. That's my concern. Is it seems like there would be some some safety concerns there.
Yeah, so that was the actual study that the Allen County Road Commission did. They did that study to assess safety and those exact concerns. The fire department had written of that concern based on 7,000 cars a day. The road commission actually has a count of 10,000 at the most peak hour. So they did their study at the most peak hour and determined, made their determination, which you've seen as part of this.
Dave, do you have anything else?
The only other comment that I had was in regards to dust control. And upon hauling the material off-site, if there does become dust issues, I didn't know, Chad, if that's something that, say if it's Top Grade or whomever's hauling the material off, if they can make a water truck available, just to knock some of the dust concerns down. It might appease, some of the concerns of the residents.
Yeah, for sure. Let me address a little bit of, I'll hit that and track out at the same time. So I don't know if you caught this in here or not, but aside from building it to the county road spec, we intend to pave the first 300 feet. And then beyond the 300 feet, we'll have a cobble strip. So that'll be intended to do any clean off. Obviously, that portion would eliminate dust concerns as you're nearing the entrance. Aside from that, they do have a water truck available and will water. Not only water, though, we're talking about potentially using Southwest Michigan Dust Control or similar operation. That's who lays the dust control down on Dugout Road. I don't know, periodically in the summer for the road commission.
Can I just ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead, Lynn.
Chad, okay, Chad, are you asking, or are you suggesting that you would add a condition related to these items that you're discussing? The stop sign, the saw cutting, the drive base, and then the dust control?
Absolutely. I thought we already had the dust control in there, Lene. I'm pretty sure it talks about
Yeah, keeping Blue Star free and clear of sand spillage from the trucks traveling to and from the property, and implement appropriate measures for dust control.
Yeah, I have no problem expanding on that. The point is, whether it be via water truck or periodic, I don't know what the stuff's called that they put down that the county uses on the road like dugout, but yes, we would do that proactively anyhow. So I have no problem with that. The saw cutting, absolutely. And making the base, I took that as frankly as a piece of properly installing that drive per the requirements, the standards, the county standards. So, and the stop signs are absolutely acceptable.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Becky, do you have anything?
I do, actually. I have a couple things. First of all, I want to say thank you to Nick Curcio for his input in giving us some direction in his legal opinion, and thank you everyone for being here to answer questions tonight. I am kind of wondering about the proposed time frame of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we know that in the past we limited that, and I'm wondering if Chad, you would be opposed to an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. time frame. And the other piece of that, there was a mention of no Memorial Day and Labor Day, which I believe are on Mondays, but I was wondering if we could say the Friday before, so that it's that 4-day weekend of Memorial, Labor Day, and also include the 4th of July in that time frame.
But it's already in there, Becky, that no legal holidays can they be open. So.
Oh, okay. I saw mention of Memorial and Labor, but I didn't see 4th of July. So is the Friday before considered part of that legal holiday?
No.
Is it possible to include that? That's not me. I don't think.
Yeah, but Becky, I have no problem including the Friday before the holiday. In fact, we could talk about the day before the 4th of July as well, or I don't know, that moves on what day it falls. So I don't know how to really address that, but the Friday before Memorial Day is absolutely no problem. The 8 to 5 hours are a little bit more concerning, just because we're trying to obviously get the material out of here and do what we can to spread it out over the course of the day. We already have limited Saturdays. Typically people might, work from in the morning until, at least early afternoon on Saturdays, and we've limited that. So I would hope that you wouldn't pull that back, but obviously it's,
So are you planning to do this on Saturdays or no?
No, we would
No.
not call on Saturday, Sunday, or legal holidays. Now also not on the Friday before Memorial Day.
Okay, well, I do appreciate the no Saturdays.
And I would say the Friday before Labor Day as well, guys. It's the same thing. That's the same Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, Chad, a question for you is, what is a few dozen trucks? I mean, is that 3 dozen? Is that 6 dozen? I wasn't sure what.
Great question. And that also, that reference to a few dozens, also an average, Becky, and that's really just the math that you get if you kind of add up what we've got out there and divide it across time to get it out of here. So
Yes.
I'm not a miner, I'm not a trucker, I'm not a hauler, so I really don't know for sure. I just can do some calculations and know that, an average of a few dozen is what it would calculate out to.
Well, another question for you, Chad. Then in your experience in talking to someone to help you remove this sand, it did say something about you are going to try to limit double loads. And is that something you can limit with with the people who are providing this service to you? Can you actually limit having double loaded trucks?
Yeah, so I think the language in here is discourage.
Yes.
And I think I absolutely can do that. And I'll just tell you the way I intend to do so is, I don't know how to properly explain it, I guess, but through I will disincentivize whoever it is that's operating it, such that it'll be in their interest to not use trains if they can, if it makes sense, or if they can.
Okay. I think that was really all of my questions.
Okay, thank you, Becky. Bill, did you have anything?
No, I think actually all my questions have been answered.
Okay, great. Yeah, so have mine. Nick, do you have anything else for us?
No, I would just, I guess, want to make a comment or maybe even pose a question about procedure with these changes, potential changes to the resolution. I think my recommendation would be, rather than trying to get some language on the fly about, particularly, I think this language about what we're going to be doing with the driveway going across the trail might need a little bit of wordsmithing. If the Planning Commission is inclined to approve the proposed resolution, I think my recommendation would be to do so now with no changes tonight, but with the understanding that staff will work with Mr. Van Horn before your next meeting, and at that time we'll incorporate the comments into a new revised resolution that can be approved at that time. One of the conditions of this resolution is that the applicant will comply with statements made during the meeting. So I think that gives us enough kind of meat to enforce these new representations between now and the next meeting And then at the next meeting, we could come with a new resolution that formalizes them in actual writing. And that way we're not trying to do that on the fly, if that makes sense. If you want to try to work through these things that Mr. Van Horn proposed and actually amend the resolution tonight, we can do that. But I'm just not sure if that's the best use of our time.
Okay.
Right.
So we could either choose to, deny or approve the SAU, and then if we choose to approve it, then we could say, as you were saying, pending the amendments to the resolution that we discussed, and so that way at least he would know that he's got our approval going forward, so he can do his next steps as far as getting permits and so forth.
Correct. I'd say if you wanted to do that, a motion, something like motion to approve the proposed resolution with the understanding that an amended resolution incorporating the discussion at tonight's meeting will be presented at our next planning commission meeting. That way he can act on this resolution in the interim, and then we'll have the amendment presented at the next meeting for your final approval.
Okay, great.
Well,
I have a question here,
yes.
and thank you for that, Nick, for that. It sounds like there's, still a bit of work on doing this amended resolution and agreement. I also want to thank Chad for his patience. And, we're all living in a bit of suspended animation right now. And I'm just wondering if all of this that's been put out there and these proposed changes can be made, but mightn't it be more prudent today to table this until our next meeting in May?
I'll let Mr. Van Horn speak to that. I mean, I think he was specific enough, and the major one from my perspective is the change about how the sidewalk is going to be treated. And I don't think that's something that would be significantly impacted between now and the next meeting, but I could be wrong about that. It's probably best to get Mr. Van Horn's take on that. The legal consequence of that would be that there would be a question about what he could do on the site between now and next meeting, but he might not be doing much anyway because
right. We don't even know when construction and this kind of work will be allowed.
Yeah, Nick, so thanks. I think that was well stated. I think there aren't significant changes being contemplated. I just have a few items here, stop signs, some things that I was going to proactively do the Fridays of Memorial Day and Labor Day. We've already contemplated dust control. The agreement already contemplates that we abide by my testimony. And the trail really is covered in the fact that your standard requires the drive to be built to a certain standard. So in order to really comply with your driveway requirement, I have to do the saw cutting of the trail to put that through. So I don't see any in considering tabling, but for continuing to make the project draw out longer and have even less opportunity to continue to move forward.
Nick, if that is correct, if Mr. Van Horn is required to rebuild that driveway at the section where the bike path is to a road standard, that's already covered in the current resolution.
Yes.
There's really no nothing that has to be changed there.
I may be a little bit confused about what was proposed tonight. So I think the resolution as drafted requires, after the project is over or when the trail becomes substantially damaged, that it be repaired up to its current condition. My understanding is its current condition is probably complying with some type of bike path standard. I think what was proposed tonight was that it be, before the project even starts, built to a standard construction, built to a standard consistent with road construction, so that it's basically pavement matching what is on Blue Star Highway. And perhaps I misunderstood that proposal.
Yeah, I can address that, Nick. So you're correct in that the driveway goes through the trail. So in order to build the drive to the requirement that you have, I would be required to do that through that area, which would then give the trail the integrity.
So I think what Chad is saying, that it's a requirement of the Allegan County Road Commission for the driveway, for the driveway permit, that section that crosses the Blue Star path, the bike path, has to be brought up to this road standard.
Okay. If that's the case, then that probably doesn't need to be changed, as long as everyone's clear that that's what's going to be happening. I just wasn't aware that we were contemplating tearing out that portion of the trail essentially to build the driveway. But if that's a requirement of the road commission, I think it's already built into the resolution.
Am I correct there, Chad?
Yeah, that's a fair statement, Andy. It's only, just to clarify, we're only talking about 20 some odd feet, maybe 20 to 24 feet of width that would happen in a day's time. Essentially, it just comes out for the day, gets compacting done. We would do that last minute before the pavers come. So it's, it's not shut down for any extended period or what have you. And really that's not just the county, that's the Saugatuck Township ordinance. Your driveway standard requires that sub-base compaction that's greater than what I'd imagine is at the trail. So.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm fine with that. If that's the case, it sounds like the only thing that needs to be addressed in the wording of the resolution is just the Fridays or days immediately prior to holidays. Was there anything else that you caught in your notes, Lene?
The Fridays and the stop signs, right?
Stop signs, right.
That's pretty simple. Yep. Okay.
So
Mr. Van Horn, I assume you're going to extend that extra strength drive all the way to the Blue Star, past obviously through the bike path, but all the way to the Blue Star.
Correct. Yeah. It'll be built to the drive standard, into the site. And of that, we'll pave the first 300 feet from Blue Star.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, I have a question, I guess, for Chad, probably. I've heard that since 2018, there's been a change at what was DEQ and is now Eagle in the person that oversees sand mining issues and permits. And I've heard that he might be visiting the site this week. Have you heard that?
Phil would be the best one to comment on that. He's got all the correspondence with Eagle from my side.
Phil?
I'm not aware of a site visit this coming week, John. They have been aware of the pond construction and what's been going on for some time, and I believe both Water Resource Division, Eagle, as well as a representative from Office of Oil, Gas, and Minerals have driven by the pond, and they are aware of the excavation. There is no pending action that I'm aware of. We've had the discussion. They're fully aware that once we exceed 5 acres, that we'll be making the application for the pond creation and doing a full review at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments?
So Andy, I would just comment, I guess, a couple things. In the event that someone decides to consider supporting it, perhaps we just write in the Friday for Labor Day, Memorial Day, and in the stop signs and adopt it tonight. I think it's covered aside from those two items. So that's all I have there. And again, I just want to thank everyone for their efforts and time and consideration. I'd appreciate any support you give.
You're welcome. And thank you for all the time you put into this application, your explanations tonight. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion as far as whether to either adopt or reject the resolution.
This is Becky.
Okay,
I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution with the changes made this evening as recommended by our attorney.
Second it.
we've got a
Dave
motion by
Eiley with
Becky
the
and
support.
we've got a motion by Becky and a second by Dave. Any
Yes.
questions or discussion on the motion?
So I'll just add what I've already said. I just feel I'd be a little more comfortable tabling this again till our next meeting because I think there's some open issues and questions to resolve.
Okay, thank you, John. This time, I'd like to take a roll call vote on the motion. Helmrich,
No.
Eiley,
Yes.
Israels,
Yes.
Lozano,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Preetz, yes. Motion carries 5-1. Thank you, Mr. Van Horn.
Thank you for your diligence, work, and support.
You're welcome. And thank you, Nick, for all your input and your work on the resolution.
And your, yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
At this time, I'd like to open it back up again for public comment. In the previous guidelines apply. Lene, will you please ask if there's any interest in making public comment?
Sure, I'd be happy to kind of unmute. If anybody, Lori, Roy, I unmuted you. I know David, Scott, Spencer, anyone wishing to speak?
Lori, do you want to go?
I guess I just find it interesting that you pass it and then wait for the permitting, but I'm not part of that legal process and I don't understand the whole thing, so. But at least it's on the docket for things that need to be approved, so.
This is Roy McElwain. I've got a comment. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes, you are, Roy.
It's hard to express how disappointed I am as a neighbor of this property that not one member of this commission tonight brought up the issue that should have been debated as to whether it fits in with the character of the neighborhood. You basically have approved a one-family 10-acre pond with water skiing, with powerboat, in a residential area with sand mining involved. And not one person said a thing about that and whether that was really in the character of what should be approved. Now we are going to get apparently a 10-acre lake. So that's my comment. It's just a huge disappointment that that wasn't discussed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
David Swan wishes to speak. David?
Thanks. David Swan, 345 Griffith in Saugatuck. I jumped in right as I heard somebody, and I couldn't identify who the speaker was, saying that the DEQ was aware and that they would be in the site. I actually called Stafford Dusenberry, who's the regional 637, which is sand dune mining manager, and he was unaware of this project. He is visiting the site tomorrow to see just how large it is. So who was there somebody from the applicant's team who is stating that the DEQ was aware of this?
David, this is not a question and answer.
Okay,
You're
so
open to your own comments.
Okay, so the comment is, I'm shocked that the DEQ is not aware of this, that they will be coming in to take a look at this as a permit after the fact. It's appalling, absolutely appalling. And Roy McElwain, a neighbor, is absolutely correct. I'd like to hear or read eventually how the Planning Commission views this as being harmonious with the surrounding area. It's not.
Thank you, David. Renee, do you have anybody else?
That's all I'm seeing from comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to close public comments. Board discussion. John, do you have any updates?
Yeah. The Township Board met on April 8th. We had our first Zoom meeting, which went quite smoothly. Among the things that were accomplished, the newly revised Administrative Policy Handbook was adopted by a 5-0 vote. That can be seen on the website. Manager Graham presented a first draft for the fiscal year 2021 budget, which must be presented publicly and adopted before July 1st. I want to note that he's made incredibly sound improvements to the format of the budget to make it more transparent and easier to read and understand, and we're very pleased with that. There was a second agreement approved by the board to allow for an applicant to pay water connection fees over time. This went to Cubbage Construction on Just Barnes Drive. That's now the second one of those that we've approved. Road projects for the remainder of fiscal year 2020 were presented and approved, as well as a review of road projects for fiscal year 2021. There was also a brief discussion held on reviewing and possibly amending current short-term rental policies, which is probably something we'll bring back to the Planning Commission as well, if we move in that direction. Manager Graham also reviewed the status of the board goals that were adopted in December 2019 to see how we're progressing on that. And public comment, there was only one by our PC chair, Andy Preetz. And Andy, I don't know if you remember, I wrote down something about ambulance, but I don't know if that referred to you. Do you remember what your comment was?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I had asked the board to consider when you're negotiating with the different ambulance companies to be able to provide better response time to the north end of the township as it's done in the south.
Yes, I do remember that now. Thank you. I just put ambulance, but you were the one who spoke about extending it to the north as well as the south. Thank you. That was kind of it. The next board meeting will be Wednesday, May 13th at 6 p.m. That will also be conducted on Zoom. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Any other board discussion at this time? Okay. next meeting, Lene, we had discussed that at this time, the May meeting is scheduled earlier because of Memorial Day. But at this time, we're not sure if there would be any agenda items that we could address due to the stay-at-home order that's in place.
That is correct.
So there may not be a May meeting.
That is correct.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
I'll second. Row?
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote. Helmrich,
Yes.
Hiley,
Yes.
Israel,
Yes.
Lozano,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Preetz, yes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.